It's a great take. Can we get one where you're talking to the audience like they're a bunch of very stupid babies? Like the very concept of indie games is inherently unserious?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Indie World. I'm Ariko.
And I'm Tyler.
You're the best. We begin this video as we have many times in the past. A Bloomberg report, this time the story that Microsoft Game Studios' Contraband has been canceled. Contraband is not a game a lot of people talk about. I wouldn't say it has a community. All you ever saw of this game was the one CG trailer back from 2021. But if you rewatch that trailer today, it's just kind of annoying. Before anything, firstly, Xbox Game Studios in partnership with Avalanche Studios, from the band that brought you Just Cause. They added that apostrophe, I guess, just to make it a pun in this instance. And brass knuckles, very cool. It does kind of illustrate how quickly things change. If you see this at the beginning of a trailer today, you think, uh-oh. Anyway, Contraband's reveal trailer just kind of travels around this garage in a megalopolisian stopped time. And you get the vibe maybe it's a heist game? The only explicit bullet points are on these Polaroids. It says a co-op, open world. Okay, just those two. It's a co-op open world. Immediately after that showcase, the official Xbox Wire posted this. From Avalanche Studios, the creators of Just Cause, Contraband is a co-op smuggler's paradise set in the fictional world of 1970s Bayonne. Coming day one with Xbox Game Pass. Or you have one sentence to describe your game. Go. Okay. Definitely mention Bayonne, the fictional world of Bayonne. And that was pretty much all we ever learned about this game until it was canceled this week. And if you're wondering what this might mean for Avalanche Studios Group if everything was riding on this, there is some good news. So sometimes I like to check on the careers tab as a kind of barometer for a studio's health, and you see that they're hiring for brand marketing director for the Hunter Call of the Wild franchise. And I thought, what is that? Turns out it's a game that was released in 2017.
Welcome to Hirschfelden.
Why would that game need a brand marketing director? It's because they've been releasing new reserves as DLC, at least one every year since 2017, including this Alberta reserve from just last month. I'm saying the Hunter Call of the Wild is the Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 of hunting games. It's never going to end, naturally as one would, just to get a vibe of a community. I went to this game's subreddit, only to learn that it's actually pretty active and nice. Someone points out that this great game has more players now than it did at the time of its release. All right. And there's actually some good vibes quality posts there. Like that's her tent now. And another big gobbler. To be clear, that game is developed by Expansive Worlds, who is under Avalanche Software Groups, but is not Avalanche Software, the makers of Just Cause, who are not so lucky as to have a single game they could support for 8 years with an active fan base who's just appreciating how sick their melanistic mallards look. And so here's how Avalanche Studios Group officially announced the cancellation. Active development has now stopped while we evaluate the project's future. We're thankful for the excitement we've seen from the community since we announced, and we'll give an update on what's next as soon as we can. Kind of sounds eerily similar to when Concord announced they were just going offline for a moment, and they were exploring options to determine the best path ahead. But it actually also reminded me of the message that Iron Galaxy left when Epic Games canceled Rumbleverse 2 years ago. At the time they said, "It is our sincerest hope that this news does not mark the end of Rumbleverse. You may not yet have seen the Rumble in its final form. If we can welcome people back onto the deck of the battle barge again, we hope you'll be there, laced up and ready to take your rightful place in the canon." Just want to call out that the two ends there is on purpose. In that game you would get into an actual canon. So, it's a pun. They even went on to say, "This is not the last time you'll hear from us. This is not the last time we'll invite you to play." Rumbleverse is evidently extremely dead, but Iron Galaxy did just make Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4. So yeah, they are still inviting us to play. It's just other stuff. So I'm saying it's nice that Avalanche is going to evaluate this project's future, that they're not just outright giving up, but we have seen this situation before. And it's not like Krafton is going to swoop in from the clouds to rescue this one, just for the portfolio boost. So I think that Contraband's sudden cancellation bounces off of BioShock 4's non-cancellation in an interesting way. And again, that whole story begins with Jason Schreier. Bloomberg reports that BioShock 4 development has been rocky. Big changes have been made in leadership. They're overhauling a game that's deep into already troubled development. In this article, 2K Games did give Bloomberg an official response. And pay attention to this language. You might hear something like this again. We are working hard to set BioShock up for the best possible future. Right now, we have a good game, but we are committed to delivering a great one. We are working closely with leadership at the studio to define this path. Then, because they have the access, IGN interviewed Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of Take-Two, owner of 2K Games, publisher of BioShock 4. They flat out ask Zelnick if BioShock 4 is canceled, to which he replies, "It's going to come out. That I can say hand on heart without question." I don't think you can say that about any game's development. I wouldn't go hand on heart for Borderlands 4. Anything can happen, man. But I did find some clunky truth to what Zelnick was saying. And I think some of our competitors have realized maybe a little late in the day that consumers are not okay with okay. Good is the new bad. Great is the new great. Good is the new bad. Great is the new great. And our goal here is to make everything exceptional. So, did Strauss Zelnick personally write that statement to Bloomberg? Anyway, I think he's kinda right. At a certain price point, good is not good enough. If you're cheap, good is great. If you're like an anime game, good is great. If you're a sports game, good is great. If you're a Pokemon game, good is the best you've ever been. But if you're something like Contraband, good is bad. Microsoft will drop good in a second. And as for Avalanche Studios, you just have to hope for the best. Crossing your fingers, hoping that the Salt's Wiesen Park revenue can carry them through another off year. And that's delayed input. I'll be back next week. Until then, thanks for watching. Sony released their financial reports for Q1 2025 this week, and while the corresponding Q&A did generate several headlines, the report itself, pretty unexciting. Not enough pictures. But there is one chart that I did want to show you that I do think is interesting. This one. Reeling back a second. The PlayStation 5 hit a massive milestone of 80.3 million consoles sold in this quarter. Seems like that's pretty big, right? However, it is slightly less than the PlayStation 4 sold at this point in its life. If you had to make a bar chart, it would go, like this. So this graph shows you the good news. Here's growth. Look at that. Monthly active users up 32%. And content and services revenue up approximately 50%? Who cares if the market's shrinking? We're making so much more money. And they're saying that because that 50% is greater than that 32%, they're also extracting more spending per user. Can you imagine? But the thing that I think is nuts about this is these sand-colored bars representing network services revenue. Network services revenue, turns out, is huge. This was, in fact, the games and network services' biggest first quarter ever in the history of the company, primarily due to the impact of increased sales of third-party software and an increase in network services revenue. So back to that chart, look at that. So just look at how big of a chunk network services is to the total of PlayStation money. And I thought, so is like Helldivers 2 in there? It's like when people buy V-Bucks in Fortnite, is that network services? No, those are all added into software. Network services is just revenue recognized through the PlayStation network of PlayStation Plus and advertising revenue. It does not include game software revenue. That's how important PlayStation Plus has become. PlayStation Plus, which isn't even that good. If Game Pass is the greatest value in gaming, PlayStation Plus is the greatest shareholder value in gaming. They're making so much money off of this.
Welcome to Hirschfelden.